So welcome to Office Hours. I'm going to go through just something real brief, and we're going to talk about structures and structure line items today. This is a very powerful aspect of ProLine, but can definitely be misunderstood. So we're going to cover that. And then after that, I'm just going to open it up to y'all's questions. So let's start with going over structure line items. All right, here we go. So today we're going to go over structure line items. If we go into a quote, we can see what these look like. So we're just going to go into any of these quotes. We'll go into this quote that has a couple different structures, a main home and a garage. We'll click into the main home here, and we're going to see that we have structure line items. And so as this description says, all option subpages within the structure will inherit these line items. Add-on subpages will ignore them. So what that means is if we come down here to the options, let me pull this over. If we come down here to the options that are in within this structure, so we have a good, better, best option. If I open this up, all of those structure and line items are included in this good option. So there's a few different reasons that we have it set up this way. One is the whole structure system that we have allows you to do multi-structure quoting, which is really cool, and to enable your customers to choose whether or not they want to do both structures, just one structure. But this also really helps with maintaining quote templates when you have good, better, best options. Because in a good, better, best option scenario, or anytime you have multiple options, often there is a lot of common line items between your three options. So you can see here that we have one unique item, which is this good shingle option, and then we have, the better shingle option, the best shingle option. And this is going to be probably, based on what manufacturer you work with, but this is just a generic version. So, but all of these items, if I click into any of these all share the same structure line items. Now, if I click into an add-on, that's not the case. Add-ons don't inherit the structural line items. They're a different case. But for your good, better, best option, it's assumed that most of those options will be the same. And so you have these centralized common line items that are part of the structure line items. And then you have your unique line items as a part of each of the option pages. So just to go over that one more time, because it's a really key thing, when you're building out your quote templates, building out your quotes, you have between multiple options for your quote, a good, better, best option, for example. All of your common line items between the options, those are going to be your structure line items, and all the unique items between these options. So something that only applies to one or the other, only applies to good, or better or best, those are what's going to go directly into the option itself. And so that way, like if you want to change something and you're like, okay, we're going to always need 3 sheets or 4 sheets of OSB board now. Or I want to replace aluminum drip edge with titanium drip edge. I don't think that's a thing, but basically you have this ability to switch this out across one. I can replace this line item with something else. And so we'll just do like this is for metal, I think, but we're going to switch this out and boom, now that's been switched out for all three of these options. And so that's what the power of that is just the ability to sort of centralize what's common across the different options. So we're in an actual quote right now, but this is the same if we go into our company settings, we go to quote templates, we'll go to this detailed pricing multi-option. So this is on the quote template end, and this is the quote template that was used for that quote. And it's the same thing. So here we have our common line items that are common across our options, and then each option itself has anything that's unique. Now you can balance this out. So, some people have a lot of unique items between the different options, like 4 or 5 different pieces of the roof that are unique as you go from good, better to best. That's totally fine. You can add all of those unique ones here and then remove them from here. So you have a lot of different options on how to do this. I think where this causes the most confusion is when people are building quote templates from scratch and they're thinking about, oh, I want to build out a roof option. So they build out a complete roof system inside of an option. And then they want to use the structure system. And so they put it inside of a structure, and then they're duplicating this out, and they end up with a bunch of duplicate line items that could have been common structure line items, and then they're not sure what to do with this. So that's just in when you're building out quote templates. If you're building things, you kind of want to think ahead a little bit. If you were to have something just all in one option, you can drag and drop items. So I can actually drag the shingle up here and drag it into the structure line items if I wanted to. So you can drag items, in and out here to put them where you want them. And so you could, pull all that out and then duplicate what's left and then replace the unique items. So different approaches here. All right, so that pretty much covers structure line items and what they're for, and then structures as well. I'll for anyone that's not like has never used structures, we'll just go look at this quote. We'll go actually look at the signing end of things, like the longest I've seen a quote take to load recently. Okay. Probably just because we're on Zoom. So on the signing end, this is the other side of structures, is this ability to give your customer the option to not do the garage or do the garage or only do the garage, not the house. And so it's like, yeah, of course you want them to do both, right? But if they're on a budget and they're deciding they're only like, hey, the garage is actively leaking, but the main house, I think we have a few more years in that, just by giving them this option, you will by default end up being the most likely contractor they go with, because everybody else is going to be sending them a single quote, and they're going to be forced to reach out and ask for a new quote and go through all that. And you're just, I mean, and not only are you giving them that option, but you're also being transparent. So you're not just giving them one number and say, hey, this is it. You're saying, hey, like, this is the main house. You got some different options here. You got some add-ons, and then this is the price for this. And like, you don't have to do both. You can do one, you can do the other. So you're also being transparent, which is going to help you close deals. All right, so that pretty much covers structures and structure line items. So I'm going to open it up now to questions. Anything you guys want to ask, it can be about structure line items, it can be about something else in ProLine. There is a Q&A button at the bottom of Zoom that you can put questions into, or you can put it into the chat. Either is fine. But I'm just going to hang out here for a few minutes and wait for you guys to drop questions. Garth asked low slope and steep slope roofing options. If I'm not answering this correctly, Garth, you can put more in there for context, but I believe you're just asking how do you quote low slope or steep slope roofing? Like on the same quote? Are you talking about on the same quote, Garth? Like you want to separate them on the same quote? Okay. So there's multiple ways to do this. You're going to, yeah, there's a lot of different approaches. So one way would be to have the low slope portion to be an add-on inside the structure. So you just have, because I mean, there's not usually as many options around low slope. So if you like, you might have your good, better, best option on this, but you could put an add-on in here, which I can add another page. So I can call this low slope. We'll call this like flat porch area. And like porches have like flat areas. Um, and so we'll just put this in here, drag it up here. And so you could have this in here as an add-on. And so you're giving them the option again of like, do you want us to do the porch or not do the porch, right? If you're not wanting to give them the option, you can build it into these good, better, best options. The way that I would probably do that is put it in your structure line items. So just add in any items that you need. Um, I think there's probably some TPO in here. Let's see, TPO. I guess we don't have a TPO in this. Membrane. No. So you would pull in the relevant items that you need and then add it into the structure. You can also put this in your quote. If you're running into this a lot, you can build this into your quote templates, and you can have your low slope items here in your structure line items to begin with, and they can just default to 0. And or you could have calculations that go to your measurements. So you could have a measurement that's like flat roof area, and then you can build calculations directly off those measurements. But so That's how I would break that down. You can build it directly into the structure and and by doing that into the options, you can have it be an add-on. You can do it as a separate structure potentially as well. Like you could have your structure be separated, and then again, you're giving them the option. It's a little bit more complicated that way. Most of the time, measurement providers are not breaking out low slope that way. Like they don't treat it as as a separate structure. They're treating it as one structure and then just telling you the areas. So that might be a little difficult. But you could, in theory, type in the numbers manually, have the main structure, and then have a second structure. And in this case, it would be a detached garage. So you could have like the main home. You can name that main home, and then you can have the flat like porch area, and then you can have the your detached garage. You can have them all separate and then generate the quote. And now you have three different areas. You're still going to run into the same issue though, where you're going to need those line items to be built into that structure to begin with. So I think the most common thing here that I've seen often is just people will just have some low slope materials that default to zero that are inside their structural line items. And then if that comes up, then they'll just plug in the necessary numbers. Garth saying, I'm mainly asking if there's a way to separate steep measurements so steep roofing products pull correctly and low slope options get pulled from EagleView. Unfortunately, not really, because that's not how EagleView does it. EagleView is just going to send one structure through with all the measurements. So it's more of an EagleView thing. I mean, if we already honor multiple structures, so if they send it through as multiple structures, it would just work, but they don't send it through that way. So if you like, you can separate out. I believe EagleView does have like a measurement that they pass for like the flat roof area. And then you can have you can have a measurement field in your system for like flat roof area that you're mapping to that potentially. But like you're not gonna the thing with like the you're probably never going to get to the point where it's just going to automatically pull from EagleView and just quote the low slope area. If you have houses with low slope, you're going to have those are going to be a little bit more complex, and you're probably just going to have to kind of get your hands dirty on those a little bit. But you can certainly try to like add in additional measurement report fields for that and then map calculations to them. I haven't personally done that, so it's something that you're welcome to try. Like the system's very flexible. And we can go look at EagleView itself. I'm not sure if they give us a specific number for the low slope. Let's see. So they don't. They just give us an area. So it's something that potentially we could look into and see if maybe we're just not including it in the measurements that they're sending, like a flat roof area measurement. Um, so it's something if you want to put it on the idea board, if you want to give that, yeah, you're saying they will give you portions of 11, 12. Um, if you can put that on the idea board, we'll look into it. We'll look into adding additional fields on there. That's not a huge add. So, and just a reminder, the idea board is right here. So just click into here, put it on the idea board, and it'll get pushed into our production process. Okay, have another question here. Oh yeah, no problem, Garth. Absolutely. The thing is the idea board, like I will just completely forget everything from this call, to be honest with you, as soon as because I'm immediately jumping on like five other calls. So the idea board makes sure that it goes into our process. So that's why I'm always talking about the idea board. It's not that I appreciate you, bring this up. We can talk about it, but it's gotta make it to the idea board if it's like gonna actually make it into our process and get added. Okay. Lapito asks CRM for door to door. So we have door to door features inside of ProLine. We have a canvassing tool now, so it's still technically in beta, but it's it's pretty just straightforward. You can just start coming here and pin neighborhoods. Um, so there's not really a CRM for door to door specifically. We, like some other CRMs, have door to door canvassing features, and so you can absolutely use those to knock doors and track those. Emily asks, one second. Can you create a template for an add-on such as skylights, to then upload or add to a new quote rather than having it as part of the roof replacement template. Most of our clients want that price broken out. Absolutely. So you would still, the way this works with us is you would want to build that. You'd probably want to build like a skylight quote, um, and have that if you don't want it to be in your main quote. Well, I would probably just put it, unless you're doing a lot of skylights separately, I would still put it into the main quote because you can go in here and you can add an add-on for down in here. So we'll add this add-on for skylights. We'll put this in here. We need to add all the relevant line items in here for skylights. Now, you're probably not doing skylights on most jobs, so we're just going to uncheck this. So now this is included in all of your quotes, but it's going to be unchecked by default. And so it's not going to get included or shown to the customer. And it's not included in any pricing or anything like that. It's completely excluded from the quote unless you check it. So that's going to be the easiest solution here. You can also have this add-on just exist in another quote template somewhere. Um, you can like have a quote template for Skylight if you wanted it to be completely separate. And then when you're building quotes, you can come in here and you can do add page from templates. And then we can go find that Skylight quote template, and then we can grab a page from it, and we're going to select the relevant structure and add it in. So that's another way to do it. Is you can actually grab pages out of other templates. So you can have a template there for skylights and grab it and push it in here. That's not my favorite approach. My preferred approach would be just have it as an add-on that's defaults to unchecked. And then you check it on when you need the skylight included. Okay. All right. I have a few more question or a few more minutes here. If you guys have any questions, if not, we can wrap it up. We got one. Lapito says he's got one. What did you got, Lapito? Get some water. Lapito's question is, can we create a lead with the canvassing feature? Yes. So the way it should already be set up this way, but you might want to double check it. In company settings, you can go to your default outcomes, and then just make sure you have you have an interested outcome here, and then it's the interested type. So if you have an outcome with the interested type, then when you go into the canvassing tool, as you are canvassing, if you drop a pin, so we'll just drop a pin here on this house and we're confirm the position. And this is obviously like you don't door knock on a computer, but this is the same way it would work on like an iPad or on your cell phone. And we're going to click interested, and ProLine's going to automatically pull up the interface to create the full lead. And so you would fill out all the information. So you'd only hit interested if you're like standing in front of the customer. And if you're standing in front of the customer, it pulls up, and then you can proceed to create the full lead. And this even gets routed. It gets if we go back to the company settings, we can see that we actually have some controls on where we want things to get routed as far as like lead source and stuff like that. So we'll go to canvassing, um, and yeah, so it's right here. So you can actually have different types of interested as well that would like start a different campaign, have a different lead source. So you can really break it down if you want. Most of the time, you're just going to want to have one, and then just make sure that it'll default to your first stage, but you probably want to select that. And then you can have any tags that you want. You have your lead source. So this is going to be canvassing. And then if you want there to be a speed to lead campaign, you can even do that. So you can have them immediately be getting a text and email after they're created in the system. So, all right. Thanks for that question. Any other questions? I appreciate the questions today, guys. Oh, Garth, I just said, yeah. I see that you put it on the idea board now. If it was recently, I'm a little behind on reviewing ideas, so you should get a note from me soon on that. Okay, I got about 2 more minutes, so if anybody else wants to drop a question, let me know, and I will answer that. Otherwise, we can wrap up, but I'll give it another minute. Anything else I can help you guys with? Okay, I think we'll wrap it up there. So again, thanks for joining, guys. Had a nice group today. Okay, we did get one last question here. Armin says, what is your recommendation when it comes to integration? What customer status? I am not an expert when it comes to our QBO integration. Um, I would reach out. We've been working with our head of product, Oliver, that built the integration, has been working with our support team, so they actually know it better than I do now. So they would I would reach out to support with that question, Armin, and work with your potentially work with your account manager, or they'll pull somebody in that would know the answer to that. It's a very robust integration, so it touches a lot. So I'm just there's no I don't know if there's a simple answer to your question. I think it just depends on what you're looking for. Um, I would imagine that you're probably referring to. I don't want to give you bad information, but I'll kind of take a stab at this. QuickBooks. I imagine you're probably talking about this. Create customers for projects with D status. Um, yeah, it depends. It just depends on how you have your account set up. But typically you're gonna want to do it early. So something around like some people want everybody that touches the company. So like all their leads, all their inspections, all of it to go in QuickBooks. That's the reason we give you this option. I'd say most people are doing it on one. It's like once they sign the quote, um, I'm trying to think if we actually send quotes over. Not sure that we do. I don't think we do. But most of them are like once the quote is signed, so on one, that's when it's going into QuickBooks. And it's you're creating either just a customer or a customer and a sub customer, which can then be converted into a project. So one is probably would probably be the default here that I would lean towards, and then but you can also move it up and do it at open. Open would be when quote is sent, so maybe you want everyone you send a quote to be in QuickBooks, but typically you kind of want only people that are about to pay you money is typically who you want to have in QuickBooks. So I would still reach out to our support. I'm pretty confident in that answer, but I'd still work with our support and or your account manager to make sure that is the right answer to the question. So, all right, I do need to wrap it up there. So thanks guys again for all of the questions, and yeah, absolutely happy to help. And I'll see you guys next week.